Lie to Me Patrol, Episode 4. This story is based on a real patrol call in a Midwest city, approximately 150,000 people. Names, locations, and identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. This is not a statement of guilt, only an examination of behavior, contradictions, and deceptions as observed during patrol. I am a patrol police officer, and this is Lie to Me Patrol. When officers respond to a burglary in progress, everything changes. Lights, sirens, multiple units. But sometimes the most dangerous part of the call is not the suspect, it's the story. The call came out as a burglary in progress. Multiple officers, about 6 in total, responded with lights and sirens to an apartment complex where callers reported that a black male had punched through the front window, forced entry, and that the women inside were fearful for their lives. That kind of call demands immediate action. When I entered the apartment, I saw the man standing in the middle of the living room with a fresh cut along his arms, consistent with someone who had punched through glass. I immediately placed him in handcuffs, conducted a weapons search, and had other officers escort him outside to a cruiser. At that moment, everything appeared consistent with what had been reported. I remained inside the apartment and began speaking with the 3 women who had called. All 3 were also black females, approximately 25 to 30 years old. It quickly became apparent that only one of the 3 actually lived there. The other 2 were guests. I also noticed clear signs of intoxication in the women: droopy eyes, mildly slurred speech, difficulty maintaining a clear timeline. That doesn't invalidate their statements, but it does affect some of the reliability. All 3 women initially told the same story. They had gone out drinking, returned to the apartment, were in the living room when a man began banging on the door, claimed he was a burglar who didn't live there, and said he had broken in because he was angry. Group narratives often appear confident, but confidence does not equal truth. I began asking normative questions. Who lives here? How long have you lived here? Who pays rent at this location? Who has the keys? Only one woman, Tasha, was the actual tenant. The other 2, Keisha and Brielle, were guests. That distinction has legal matters. I asked Tasha a simple question: do you know the man who broke in? She answered that he was her ex-boyfriend. That immediately contradicted the earlier narrative of a random burglar. Keisha and Brielle became more animated, repeatedly stating, he doesn't even live here. He doesn't belong here. He broke in. These are moral qualifiers, statements meant to convince rather than inform. They tell you what you're supposed to think and not what actually happened. Based on those statements, I asked Tasha a presumptive question: when did he move out? She did not answer the question. Instead, she said, we broke up yesterday. This response avoided the key issue of residency. Breaking up does not determine residency, and it does not terminate the other person's residency. Avoiding that distinction is not an accidental response. In the state I work in, residency is not defined by lease agreements, rent payments, or even mail delivery. Residency is defined by an expectation of continued living. If a person has lived there for weeks or months, has belongings there, has keys, has reason to believe they will continue living there, they are not a trespasser. They cannot burglarize their own residency. By Tasha's own statements, the man, Derek, had lived there for over a year and had broken up with her the day before. That means Derek was legally a resident. Once confronted with that reality, the woman's story began to change. They went from we don't know him to he's her ex to he lived here with her. At that point, the burglary allegation completely collapsed. Truth emerges incrementally on calls like this, and it emerges incrementally only when the original deception fails. Each correction was not volunteered, it was forced. While I was still inside speaking with Tasha, Keisha had gone outside and began speaking with another officer near the cruiser. She repeated the original burglary story, pretending not to know Derek, but when I stepped outside and confronted her with the facts, she pivoted. Keisha stated, I am a black woman, and I am afraid of the police. This was not consistent with her behavior, which consisted of her calling the police, remaining on scene, engaging officers voluntarily, continuing to provide statements, and being outside alone at a patrol car with a police officer. Fear-based claims that contradict behavior are deflections. They are not explanations. When confronted directly, Keisha stared at me for several seconds after I pointed all of the above out to her. Then she turned around and walked away without another word. That silence was not confusion, it was recognition. She had been caught in her lie. Derek was, of course, removed from handcuffs. No burglary had occurred, no trespass occurred, and no crime occurred. I asked Derek if he had somewhere safe that he could stay for the night, to which he responded that he did. I transported him to his father's residency. Before dropping him off, I advised him of a hard truth. When one partner is willing to lie to the police once, they are likely willing to do it again, especially in domestic relationships. This call did not fail because police made a mistake. It failed because the callers lied from the beginning. They exaggerated the danger. They misrepresented residency. They weaponized the criminal justice system to remove someone from their lives, and in so doing, they nearly destroyed an innocent man's freedom. Here's the reality of police patrol work. Burglary calls are not always about crime. Sometimes they're about control, retaliation, and rewriting relationships. And if you don't slow down and listen carefully as a patrol police officer, you end up arresting the wrong person. This is the end of episode